On the Road with Kelly and Bob, the USA 250 Tour, brought to you by Mueller. Coming up on this episode...
And your food source is about culture. It's about how we made our living.
We, the people of the United States of America.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of On the Road with Kelly and Bob, the USA 250 Tour. I'm Bob Phillips.
And I'm Kelly Phillips. When we launched this special edition of our weekly show and podcast earlier this year, in honor of our nation's 250th birthday, we promised a mixture of stories you might expect on an occasion like this, and some that you would least expect.
This week is the latter. Well, let me qualify that statement just a bit. When I tell you the state we'll be visiting, the subject will probably immediately come to mind. But I doubt you're going to expect the story to be quite what it is.
So what do you think of when we say Idaho?
Just what do you think we're going to find there?
There's a huge potato.
Well, in a line to get their picture in front of the huge potato in the sun.
And we've had the potato for a long time, I probably maybe in the early 1990s, and the sign itself.
Okay, just what you were thinking when we said Idaho, right? Potatoes. In fact, when we ask what they think first when we say Idaho, it turns out most people say just that. Potatoes. Idaho and the potato, it seems, are practically synonymous.
And that is why we came to see Tish Dahman at this magnificent building here in Blackfoot, Idaho. We'll let Tish explain.
I'm going to take you outside so you can see the building. So the building itself is on the National Register of Historic Places. It was put on the register in 1974. It's the Oregon Short Line Railroad, and it was built in 1913. At the time, this was a massive undertaking. They spent $40,000 on it. This stone is quarried. It looks like a granite, but it's actually a volcanic composite, and it's quarried outside of Rexburg. And as you can look at it, it's all hand cut. And at the time, they were building, stick-built railroad stations, just the little ones. So at the time in 1913, this was a big deal.
The person who's showing us around, Tish Dahman, is the director of the Idaho Potato Museum. Yes, there is one, right here in Blackfoot in southeastern Idaho, about 3 hours and the other side of the state from Boise.
The Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve sits between the two. Idaho Falls is just up the road, and the west entrance to Yellowstone National Park is only 2 hours away.
Tish says this place attracts visitors from, everywhere.
So we've had people from all over the world. Our biggest markets, though, are just the United States, Utah, California, our biggest states, Idaho itself, then Germany, the United Kingdom, and Australia. They're the ones who seems to do the most traveling to the west. But we are fortunate to have those people stop by because we are very close to West Yellowstone and Yellowstone National Park. So we are a great stop on their way somewhere else. The museum itself was founded in 1988. That was a bit controversial because people in the community didn't think potatoes would attract visitors because they lived, breathed, planted, was their economy, it was their culture. It's just so common. Why would anybody come to a museum?
Why would they care about potatoes that we grow all the time?
Exactly. So common, but it does. I think the reason is that potatoes are a comfort food. They connect everybody. Everybody has a favorite dish, whether they're potato chips or scalloped potatoes, baked potatoes, vodka. It connects people. It has so many good memories, whether people have taken them out of their diet or not, that reconnects people to their food source.
Here in Idaho, there are lots of folks who get really excited about potatoes. It is, after all, what's called a cash crop. Grow a good potato get paid for doing it.
But the number one fan of the potato here in Idaho, well, it's got to be Tish Dahman. Plainly put, Tish is eat up with potatoes. And that's kind of funny because she readily admits that the potato is poison.
Potatoes are part of the nightshade family, so they're toxic. And originally, the tubers would have been toxic. And the ancient Peruvians watched the llamas eat the tubers by licking a clay soil. So they'd coat their stomach and they would eat that potato. And then, of course, imaginative, creative, and very smart ancient Peruvians saw this. And so then over time and through breeding, they were able to get the solanine out of the potatoes and just where it just resides in the leaves and in all of the greenery.
And another little surprise has to do with where potatoes originated. And what most people believe, turns out, is just a story that over the years was passed down the grapevine, or in this case, the potato vine.
Many people think that the potato originated in Ireland because of the Irish potato famine. It was such a massive historic event that people have a tendency to think Irish potatoes, that's where they came from, but they didn't. They are a native species that grows in the Andes Mountains of Peru.
So they actually started in the Western Hemisphere.
Exactly. And there are varieties that grow all the way up into Canada, but it was the ancient Peruvians who cultivated the potatoes in the beginning.
How important is this crop to this state?
It's very important. It's on our license plates.
And that says it all.
And so potatoes are huge. 13.5 billion pounds of potatoes a year. That's amazing. It's like, if you want to imagine in your head, it's kind of like 120 Titanics all stacked together. That's a lot of potatoes.
That's a lot of potatoes.
And then, of course, there are all of the jobs that are created through the potato industry, whether it's in manufacturing, it's mechanics, research and development, grocery stores, restaurants, this Idaho Potato Museum. All of that is related to the growing potato here in Idaho. You know, you can eat for a long time, and then you just add a couple of other additives and you have a different meal every night. So it is very important to the American diet, to the European diet, and just for nutritional value, for historically, it is so important.
You're passionate about the potato.
Well, you have to be. It is so humble. It's not flashy, but it goes the distance, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, Kelly, quick question. Favorite fast food French fries?
Well, I know it's the expected answer, but it has to be McDonald's.
Yeah, they are pretty much known for that, aren't they? In fact, most people say McDonald's. Whataburger and Wendy's are usually on that list, along with local favorites. And my next question for you.
Okay.
Favorite way to cook potatoes?
I love a baked potato, but I love mashed, French fried, scallops. Okay, I just love potatoes.
I'm with you, except for that scallop thing, not a fan. No. So let's get back to our conversation with Tish. She had a lot more to say about the history of that great railroad depot building they're in, about the history of potatoes, and about her own history and, well, how she got to where she is today as Idaho's #1 potato devotee.
I grew up between Pocatello and Boise. My dad ended up as the vice president of the J.R. Simplot in their public relations. He developed the public relations department for them. So he worked in the potato industry. I school hopped. I went to Boise State. I went to BYU. I went to BYU study abroad in Paris. I finished up at the University of Idaho. You're young, you just want to go places. By that time, we came back to Utah. I worked in journalism. I was the editor of a newspaper in Heber City, Utah. And I kind of changed that over for a Chamber of Commerce position. And then I decided I needed to get back to Idaho. Then came back, and the only job I could get was a job selling dinky little ads for the Idaho State Journal, which wasn't going to feed me. And fortunately, this ad came up in 2012, and I just snagged it. And I thought it was just a museum. I thought,
Wait a minute, you were selling ads.
I was selling ads.
Somebody placed an ad for this job.
Yeah.
You saw it and grabbed it.
And I grabbed it. And well, I mean, it was in the newspaper. I mean, but I applied. And the minute I walked in the door, you could just see the potential here. This building is amazing. So they stopped passenger service in the early 1970s, and then they used it as a freight depot until probably about 1978, 79, and then they shut it down completely. And that by 1988, it was vacant. And so at the same time is when a group of people were thinking Blackfoot is known as the potato capital of the world. We should do something about it. Let's build a museum. And I'm not really sure why they chose Blackfoot to put such a fabulous railroad depot in, because all of the materials, the floors are maple floors. They're hardwoods. These are brass, but some of them on the other doors are copper because copper was an easier material to find. These are the original doors. Really groovy hinges, right?
They are. They're huge.
And so everything that the museum did, like this wall, these are all pony walls. They can be taken down. And so we're very conscious of the historic nature and value of the building. We have had to do things, obviously air conditioning and heating, but you can see that it's all exterior. In 1913, when they opened the building in August, the governor from Idaho came all the way over from Boise. There were 2,000 people here. That was more people than were in the town. Massive all-night celebration. And Blackfoot has a very interesting political past because it's within the town itself and in the territory. It was named the territorial capital, kind of a fluke because it was supposed to go to Eagle Rock, which is Idaho Falls. But at the last minute, the clerk was bribed to change it to Blackfoot. So it went through the legislature and nobody realized it until they voted for it. So a lot of just like wheeling dealing happened. And in fact, we have two main streets. And one of the reasons that's a political issue, we have a north and a south main street. The front of the building and the tracks face Main Street, and that was going to be the actual Main Street. But when a hotel came in, and it was the Eccles Hotel, they wanted sidewalks so the ladies wouldn't have to drag their skirts in the mud, as they made their way over to it. And the Blackfoot city politicians didn't agree to it. So they said, I'm going to move it over here and we'll put in our own sidewalk. So we have another Main Street. So that's the environment that this building was built in. But why is Idaho such a great place for growing potatoes? When they came out west and they started planting potatoes in this soil, this is a volcanic soil. It's sandy and it's very high in nutrition. And then we have a aquifer in this area because this is a high desert area. And you also need a very good climate to grow optimum potatoes. You need hot days and cold nights. The growing season is 90 days, and that's why they can be grown in other countries. Saudi Arabia is growing them. India is a huge producer of potatoes. China, in fact, the United States is only the 5th largest producer of potatoes in the world. The first is China, India, Russia.
And is there a certain type of potato? Do you grow all potatoes?
We do grow all potatoes, but our number one potato that we're growing is the russet potato. And the russet is somewhat light resistant. And it's a great potato. If you boil it, you mash it. If you want to fry it into fries, it is perfect for cooking. And it's like a baked potato. It is so fluffy and fabulous. And there are different varieties. There's the Ranger, the Dakota, the Norcota. There are different russet varieties besides the Burbank. But Idaho also grows other types. We do the reds, we do the yellows, we do the fingerlings, we do just whatever's out there, we do it. We have seed potato farms. That's all up in the Rexburg-Ashton area. And then the rest of it is all along the Snake River Plain all the way into Twin Falls.
Do you still eat potatoes?
Love them. Love.
Do you eat them every day?
No, I mean, I can. I just don't because you like variety in your diet. But I have them at least once a week. We grow more potatoes in this county than any other county in the United States.
And in Idaho, I understand they're grown, in the Snake River Valley?
Well, the Snake River Valley and the Snake River Plain. So we have the soil, we have the irrigation and the water, and we have the climate. And the rest of the museum is dedicated to how we grow potatoes today, how they did that in the past. We have some wonderful collections that people have collected and donated to the museum. These are potato spikes. In the old days, if you had a food grade stainless steel nail putting your potato, it would help keep the potato from the inside as well as the outside. You'd cut off about 15 minutes in the cookie.
Do people still do this today?
Yes, they do. And of course, we have the world's largest potato crisp. A crisp and a chip are different in the United States. In the U.S. vernacular, of course, crisp is in the U.K. Crisps are fish and chips. It's just different. The chips are the French fries. But this is a Pringles, and so it's the largest
Potato crisp?
crisp because it's made out of potato parts, not just the entire chip. And a chip in the United States has to be an actual full-on piece of a potato. Idaho has, I think we have 5 distillers of vodka now, and we have potato chip processors forever, not since Lay's, and they were mainly in Utah. But now we have 2 of our own potato chip processors. We have one in Aberdeen, which is in Bingham County, that's called Roots Potato Chips, and they roll the potatoes, they process them, and they package them.
They do it all.
They do it all. Then just like the little fun things, of course, the stamp collection. This is our potato chip exhibit. And this lady, Laura Scudder, who developed a way to package potato chips so they would have a longer shelf life. She was an amazing person. And whenever you have time, you need to take a look at her life because she's phenomenal. And then we have a little museum. And then we can just move right through here. This little potato family just explained potato storage and the cellar system. And we had a gentleman in Aberdeen who was an amazing man when it came to mechanics and tractors. And then after he retired, he started trading them. And then he donated his tractor collection to us. Again, a lady donated her collection of ceramic potatoes, which is a lot of fun. And then, of course, we have just some equipment that's been used. This is the oldest piece right here. This is just a planter. And so one person sits here. We have the tree over there, I think. And then someone in the back. And you potatoes here, you would just drop them in at the right time. But this goes all the way back to the 1800s. And it's just, those things are amazing. Here is a piece of equipment that was developed in Blackfoot. It is the Milestone potato cutter. Before this was developed, and you remember after World War II, there was an explosion of inventions. Your potato growers, the families would work all day, and they would cut potatoes up so they would have seed for the next year. If they did that, they could get about 36 bags of potato seed. When this piece of machinery came along, it could do that in an hour. Now the potato seed cutters can do 1,000 bags in an hour. But you see what it did with how much acreage you could have a use. You had the seed to plant so much more in acreage than before. So this is the Sputnik potato loader.
Not Sputnik, but Spudnik.
And that it was named after Sputnik. This was created by 2 brothers whose job was to shovel potatoes in and out of trucks, in and out of cellars, and they just sat down at lunch one time and they said, there is got to be a better way. Their names for Leo and Carl Hobbs. Carl kind of designed everything, and what they did is they just took existing technology, which was a conveyor belt, put it on a boom arm, boom, and then because Sputnik was in the news, they, having a fun sense of humor, called theirs Company Sputnik. And they still operate today outside of Blackfoot. They did sell it several years ago to a German company, but the main manufacturing is still here in Blackfoot. Same thing with the Milestone. They're still in Blackfoot, which is great to have that legacy. These 2 gentlemen, they have a great story. Carl and Leo only had a 3rd grade education. They came from a large rural family, and it was too hard to go to school. They just went out to work, and then they developed this. But on top of that, Carl was dyslexic. This is a wonderful story about overcoming the odds and being successful no matter what life throws at you.
Potatoes grow underground, but what does the plant look like above ground?
A leafy plant. It looks sort of kind of rounded when it grows. I don't know how to explain the difference between a root vegetable and a tuber. But like a beet is a root, but a potato is a tuber. And so the potato itself reproduces itself. If you cut it in half, as long as there are 2 eyes on that piece of potato and you plant it, it will grow a potato plant. And interestingly, the potato and tomato are both in the nightshade family, and you can splice a tomato plant onto a potato plant. So it grows potatoes underground and tomatoes on the top, and it's called a tomato. A lot of people are concerned about the green spots they see on the potatoes they receive from in their bag of potatoes. You just have to take that off. It will not hurt you then if you ingest it because there is not enough solanine in that. And that is really only for where the sun has touched that potato. But do not eat any parts of the plant. The way that the potatoes came to Europe and then eventually North America was because of the Spanish conquistadors. They went to South America looking for gold, but the real gold that they found were the potatoes. They had developed dehydrated potatoes long before he ever even thought about that. So not only do potatoes can last for a year in a cool, dark space on ships, and it is so full of vitamin C and potassium, more than a banana, more than an orange, every vitamin except for A and D, and it even has a little bit of protein in it. So it really is a superfood. So if you're a sailor, it helps avoid all types of diseases from malnutrition. Frederick the Great of Prussia made people plant them because he figured it was a inexpensive and full great source of food. But people were resistant to it because they thought it caused leprosy and other diseases, possibly, just like the tomato, very suspect. He forced them grow and eat them, and it turned out wonderful. I mean, it's a great experiment. This young man, name is Antoine Augustin Parmentier. He was a pharmacist in the French army, and he was taken prisoner in Prussia, and he was jailed there for 6 months. And what did he get to eat in jail? Potatoes. Nothing but potatoes. When he was released, hale and hearty, he fell in love with the new food, and he became what was then called a potato promoter. He would hold dinner parties where there was nothing served but varied dishes of potatoes. He convinced the Queen and King of England to promote them. She wore the blossoms in her hair. He would wore the blossoms in his button, holding his jackets. He also would have different promotion events, like plant a plot of potatoes in the middle of Paris, put armed guards around it, signifying that it was a very valuable crop. And through his efforts, people began to accept potatoes as a food source. Before that, they just thought it was fit for pigs. And they were very successful. In fact, Benjamin Franklin and possibly Thomas Jefferson attended his dinners. And that's why when Jefferson came to the United States, he was the first president to serve French fries in the White House. In a plot of land, it grows more food per unit than any other staple food. So you just get pounds and pounds of food value from a potato. Then, unfortunately, the Irish potato famine happened. That was very devastating to Ireland and to it started in the Scandinavian countries and then worked its way down. But unfortunately, the Irish only had potatoes. Their diet was very limited. And so when they lost their main source of food, it was so devastating. 1 million perished from malnutrition and the other immigrated. But it turned out great for the other countries because so many notable people were a result of those Irish immigrating to the United States and to other countries. Luther Burbank, he was the man who designed the russet potato. And it was by accident, but what he was trying to do was to discover a blight-resistant potato.
And is that our most popular potato today?
Today, yes. They're used for different things. I think the yellow and the reds are coming up in popularity because they're easy to cook. But for if you want to mash potatoes, if you want French fries, that is the best potato that holds up.
I think I smell potatoes.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, they're making them in your cafe bag.
This used to be the baggage you might marry. But then when you got off the train, you wouldn't come through this door. You would come around and you would come in this door. And you can see that 100 years of someone standing right here, as in dead at the floor, because this was the counter. Would you like to try some fries or a potato? Or we have some fun things, or tater tots?
Wait, potato cupcakes? Potato ice cream?
Would you like to try some? Sure. Hi, Riley. Would you make us a order of the the jalapeno cheesy cats, please?
Okay, I had somebody ask me years ago, if you were going to be on a desert island and you could only have one food, what would it be? And I said potato because of so many different things. How many different things can you do with a potato?
You can do everything with a potato, but more importantly, it's what the nutritional value of that potato. If you only had one thing to live off and you needed the variety, your potato is, of course, the perfect choice. Has every vitamin except A and D, which you can get from the sun and from butter, yay. And it even has protein in it, right? So there you can survive on just a potato. Then you can make it into scallop potatoes, French fries, potato chips. You can do mashed potatoes, potato vodka if you need to drink something while you're on that island, right? There are so many things what's your favorite way to eat potatoes?
Mashed.
Baked potatoes, if they're great, fluffy in there. But I like to eat the potato peel, and if it's cooked
Nice
just
and
right.
crunchy, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference. I think there are two types of people in the world. Some people who like to have their potato baked in a tinfoil so that it's kind of steamed, but you don't get that really crunchy, you don't get the crunchy skin. And then those who don't use foil. I'm a don't use foil because I like the skin. And there are people who put like an oil and fix it with seasoning, even better. But the russet is so cool because once you, if you just take your fork and mash it into like that and then push it, it just fluffs up like popcorn. It is so good.
Almost like having a corpse mashed potato inside that great peel with butter and a little sour.
Rough on the outside, tender on the inside.
Well, one thing is clear, the humble tuber is more than a side dish. It is a cornerstone of the American spirit. And at the Idaho Potato Museum, they not only celebrate the farmer, they also celebrate the heritage behind every harvest. So next time you're eating a potato, just remember, you aren't eating a meal, you're taking a bite out of American resilience. Thanks for listening to this week's edition of On the Road with Kelly and Bob, part of the USA 250 Tour. We continue our travels all over America, and you don't want to miss a story. So the best thing to do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and see the videos on our YouTube page. You can listen to On the Road with Kelly and Bob wherever you get your podcast, or the best thing, download that free Odyssey app. Listen anytime, anywhere.